definitely need to be thinking about this in terms of short and long, and probably the medium as well term, so short, medium and long term. In a lot of cases, there are difficult decisions being made about what to do with advertising for the here and now. And, there are a lot of advertisers who don't have budgets. There are a lot of advertisers who are seeing a surplus of demand and therefore wouldn't want to prompt any more demand because they're kind of struggling to keep up with fulfilling that demand. And John, talked about that in the previous question. But I think it's also important to look beyond just what's happening here and now. It's not just about prompting demand in the here and now, and it's also about thinking to that medium, thinking to that long term. And there's 3 reasons why advertising now for the long term is important. So number 1 is we do see that habits can change when there are big shifts in consumer lifestyles or life stages. So if people get married or have kids or move home, that's normally when you start to see big changes in their consumption patterns happening. And really, the COVID-19, the lockdown, spending more time with your children, having more meals, having different ways of accessing goods and services is a massive life-changing moment for everyone. And as advertisers, if we do have budgets and if we do have products and services that fit that new need, then this is the perfect time to be looking to fulfill that demand and getting ahead of consumers changing their habits and adding into that. The next 2 are about how then advertising impact can work over the long term. So the first one is the fact that in the study that Claudia mentioned just now, so thank you for that, Claudia, that we did with ThinkBox, we found that advertising had twice as much of an effect in the long term as it did when you just look at the short term. So it's important that you're taking into account what might happen in the years and months ahead, because that impact will either be there if you advertise or it won't be if you don't. And if you don't advertise, then you can guarantee that there could be other, your competitors in your sector that are advertising now and building that long-term impact ahead of you. And it could be a really bad way to be losing share of market as we go through that period. So you need to take into account that your advertising could be having a long-term impact, is likely to be having a long-term impact, and that if you lose out on that now, you're going to lose out on that forever. I think the third thing to bear in mind, and similar to what John was saying, was the fact that we don't know when this lockdown is going to end, but what we do know is that brands who try to run from a standing start are much worse off and have to spend much more money than brands who are trying to run with their communications from a walking start. So it's going to be a lot easier if you have a base level of investment, maybe focusing on your brand communications, on solidifying that in consumers' minds, that you can then run from when the lockdown is lifted, as opposed to going completely dark, not doing any advertising, and then as soon as the lockdown's lifted, having to pump loads more money back into your advertising to build things like reach, coverage, and salience with that. So, if I were to summarize, that last point is you want to be running from a walking start, not a standing start. The second point I made was that advertising does have a long-term impact. That's been proven. And that if you stop advertising now, you're going to lose that long-term impact, and that just won't come back. And the first reason is that now is actually a fantastic opportunity to be building habits as people's life cycles and life stages are going through this fundamental shift. So all 3 of those reasons give a good reason not to go dark and a good reason to be positive about advertising's long-term impact.